Hey guys, welcome back to the Hunter Chef channel. Today I'm going to show you just how easy it is to make pasta dough at home. I've got my pasta recipe from the Hunter Chef cookbook. In the book there's a mousse lasagna. Today we're going to do some other stuff, but let's get started just on the dough. It's flour, salt, and eggs, a little bit of oil, and a touch of water as needed. So let's get started. 450 grams of all-purpose flour. We've got 3 whole eggs and 6 egg yolks. So what the egg yolk does, it adds fat to the recipe, but it also gives you that nice yellow color. If you use organic eggs or eggs with like added omega-3 in the chicken's feed, you get a much brighter yellow pasta. Pinch of salt and a splash of olive oil, 2 tablespoons. Again, that's just adding some richness to the dough. Then just grab a fork and start mixing. And then once I get this into a shaggy dough, I'll dump it onto the table and start kneading it by hand. Now you may not need to add water. I'm only going to add water if I feel like it's dry. You know, it should feel almost like wet sand. You don't want pasta to be too wet because you want it to be, the firmer it is, the more texture it has. A wet, really elastic, stretchy dough is going to be really soft when you cook it. More like something like a gnocchi or more of a dumpling kind of texture. We want pasta to be firm, and that comes from the firmness of the dough and the moisture content of the dough. So this is looking shaggy. I'm finding it's a little dry, and this is the benefit from using your hands and making the dough. You can feel it. So I'm squishing it together, and there's still little kind of white bits of flour, and it's not coming together as much as I want it to. So from here you can add another egg or a touch of water. And I think a whole egg might be too much. I just want to add a splash of water, because once the dough is too wet, it becomes harder, and you have to add a lot more flour to the dough to soak up that water. So just going to give it a little splash, about a tablespoon. Let's see if I can get it to come together into a ball now. So yeah, that has made a huge difference in this dough. It's going to come together quite nicely. And you can see that was just a little tiny splash of water, and it's sticking to my hands, absorbing all that excess flour. That's just the size of the eggs. These eggs might have been a little smaller, medium, large, extra large eggs. They're all a bit different, even in the same package. So the firmness of the pasta dough also comes from the kneading, developing that gluten. Because of all the kneading we're doing, we're going to need to let this rest. So after I get this into a ball, we're going to cover it with plastic wrap or a plastic bag that you can reuse, and let this rest for, I like to do at least an hour at room temperature. It just lets the dough relax, makes it so much easier to roll out. And you can see it's not anywhere near as elastic or wet as like a bread dough. It's not forming a skin when I push it. It's kind of cracking and breaking. That'll all come together once it rests. I mentioned earlier, you don't want it that elastic like a bread dough. It has to be firm. Dry Play-Doh. Kind of see from here, it's not springing back or anything. Got just enough moisture to stick together. And I'm gonna get this into a plastic bag. Okay, my pasta dough has been resting for about an hour. It is a lot softer, even though it was really firm when I wrapped it in the plastic. The gluten has relaxed. We're gonna use some flour to help us roll this out. And I've also got some neat little tricks here. I've got a plastic bag for when you start filling the pasta or cutting some shapes. If you have some dough that you're not working with at the moment, you always wanna keep it wrapped in plastic. That'll help it from drying out. And if it does dry out, I've got this cool little mister you can spray the dough to keep it hydrated. When it dries out, it becomes brittle. It doesn't stick when you're trying to fill pasta shapes and stuff like that. We're just gonna start adding some flour to the bench and taking our time rolling out this pasta. I've rolled it out. It's quite thin, but it's not as thin as I want it to be. It's probably like 2 or 3 millimeters. I'd like to get it a little thinner. I'm just gonna let it relax a bit. I've put a lot of work into it. That rolling out is working the dough. And as you can see, it's quite elastic. As I roll it out, it shrinks back. So I've misted the edges a little bit. So, because it is starting to dry out, I'm just gonna rest it for about five minutes, just to let the dough relax a minute.
5 minutes later.
Okay, I let my pasta rest just about 5 minutes. It's not sticky like that mister, just does a great job of rehydrating it, and it's not sticky to the touch or anything. All right, so this is a workout. I'm getting out of breath here, but I'm slowly but surely getting this to paper thin. You can feel the thickness just with your hand. So it's thin here, it's thicker here, and I'm getting pretty close. Again, you can like kind of see through it. You see the little shadow behind it, but it gets really delicate and thin, and this is pretty close to where I want it. I might just stretch it a little bit more. Then I'm going to mist it again, put the bag on it, and get our fillings ready. I'm gonna make agnolotti, and then I'm gonna do a ravioli video as well. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next one.